It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Wisconsin River Falls head women's ice hockey coach, Coach Joe Cranzton. How are you doing today?
Doing fantastic, thanks.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college women's ice hockey?
Yeah, I never really knew if that was something I was looking at. I knew I coached high school hockey, boys hockey for 12 years, and got a little burnt out and took a year off. And it was my dad who we'd seen that UW River Falls was looking for a women's coach to start the program there. And my dad, who had been a 30-year hockey coach and actually started girls hockey in northern Minnesota in the 70s, said you should really give that a shot. And so, I applied and started at River Falls. I mean, women's hockey was in its infancy back then, so there was really nothing to look back on and say, this is something I want to do, because it was brand new. But to me, it looked like a challenge and something that was appealing, so I tried it.
Of course, what was that experience like? And did you ever play collegiate ice hockey growing up?
Well, I did not play. Well, I did play 1 year of college hockey. It's kind of an interesting story, but I played high school hockey, and then I played in the USHL, and then I played 1 year up in Fergus Falls at the college up there. Played for Mike Carroll, actually, who's the Gustavus coach, who I will be playing against tomorrow. Back 40 years ago almost, but then I was recruited to play at River Falls, and then when the coach who recruited me went to St. Cloud State, and they had a new coach at River Falls, and he knew who I was and had watched me play in the USHL and asked me to be an enforcer, a fighter. And I said I was not that interested in punching people, or even less interested in being punched. So I asked him if he had a number of anybody in the area here who was looking for a high school boys assistant coach, because I had already coached 2 years of high school boys at that point, and helped my dad with some youth hockey. So he gave me a number of a guy. So I actually started coaching high school hockey when I was my first year here at River Falls. And so I never actually played here at River Falls, but the whole time I went to school here, I was coaching high school boys hockey.
What was that experience like getting into coaching on the high school hockey side before transferring over to the collegiate side?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I always had good teams. I coached up in Somerset, Wisconsin, which is a small town about half hour north of where I am here. And we had some really good teams, had a lot of kids that went on, played college hockey. And, we were traditionally a top 10 team in the state, and had a lot of success there. And, I did that for just over a decade, but then was just ready to move on. And this opened up, and I made the transition from boys high school to the women's college.
What was that transition like going from the boys' high school to women's college?
Well, like I said earlier, it was in its infancy, so it wasn't great hockey, to say the least, and don't want to take anything away from those girls that I coached those first few years, because they worked just as hard as the girls I coach now, just a little different skill set. And so it was a little frustrating the first year or two, but we turned over a lot of players, and we went from basically, I had no recruits my first year, so I just took over the club team that was here, and we won 3 games, 3-15, I think. And after that first year, we've never had a losing record in the last 24 years. And it was after I'd taken over 4 years later, we were playing in Elmira, New York at the Frozen Four, playing against Elmira, who at that time had won a couple of national championships and had never lost to a Division III opponent in the history of their women's hockey program. And they beat us 2-1 in the Frozen Four out there. So we went from kind of infancy to a pretty high level in the first 4 years.
Of course, for you as a coach, what was it like getting to start up a program from scratch and coming up with the women's ice hockey program?
Yeah, it was awesome. It's one of those opportunities that I thought opportunity in a lifetime, even though it had its growing pains, but being able to start a program from scratch, and I've seen other programs here at UW River Falls start from scratch, and it's nice to not take it over and then have to change a lot. I had my vision of how I wanted to run a hockey program, and obviously that vision changed a lot throughout the years, but I knew I wanted to have success, and I'm kind of driven that way in all aspects of my life. So it was a challenge, but yet the fact that it was a clean slate to be able to start fresh and do things my way was very intriguing and looked very good to me. And I'm definitely looking back 25 years now. I'm glad I made the jump.
What was that feeling like being announced as the first ever women's ice hockey coach for Wisconsin River Fall?
Well, at the time, I really didn't think much of it. I mean, we were just trying to get off the ground and get her going. And, but I look back now, 25 years later, it's hard to believe. I would have never thought, number one, that I would be here 25 years later. I didn't expect that when I took the job, but it's been a crazy run. I can honestly say it's been probably the most fun thing I've ever done in my life, and the most rewarding thing to be able to have an impact on that many kids over that period of time. And the hockey's still getting better. If somebody would have told me 25 years ago, 25 years from now, do you think that sport's going to be getting better every year? I'd have probably never thought that. You'd think at some point it would plateau, but it hasn't. We keep the Division III women's hockey and women's hockey D1 too, and in general, just keeps getting better and better every year. Really fun to be a part of that.
For you as the head coach, what was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the ice?
Uh, I'm not, it's so long ago. I'm not really sure how it felt. It again, like I said, it was just fun to be able to step out there and move forward and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And, back when I first started, we had previously been a club team. So now we were a varsity NCAA team, and, we we're still playing a lot of Division I club teams and, going against some Olympians and things. So it was definitely a difficult task, but looking back on it, it was one of those things where you just put on your skates every day and get out there and just do what you can and try to make it a good experience for as many kids as you can.
As a head coach, as you talked about that, what was that experience like transitioning from the club level of ice hockey to going on the division level of ice hockey?
It was a pretty big transition, even like going from boys to the women's game. A lot of people have always asked me, and not so much now as they did back in the day, what's the biggest difference? And to me, I'm coaching hockey players. It didn't matter to me if they were a boy or a girl. It's just you treat them like hockey players. And same kind of thing with those hockey players in my first couple of years, and they went from being club players, and then second year, I think I had maybe 3 or 4 players that made my team from the original team. So they were growing pains, and those things are kind of difficult sometimes, but you have to have a vision, you have to stay on task and just keep moving forward.
What have been some of the things that you've been able to accomplish so far?
Well, here at River Falls, I think we have been to the NCAA tournament. I think 13 out of the last 14 years. So we've had a lot of success that way, making it to the NCAA tournament. But again, in our conference, we used to be in the NCHA conference. And then the WIAC teams pulled out of that conference, and now we're in just in the WIAC. And I think we have, give or take, a year here, but I believe we've won our conference regular season or the conference tournament or both every year for the last 14 years. That's a pretty nice accomplishment. I've had a lot of great hockey players here to be able to do that.
How has it been like as a head coach having a 400 winning streak?
Yeah, again, it's just longevity. It's just, I mean, we're almost at 500 here. That'll be probably early next year. I think we're about 490 now. So our 400th win was right before COVID hit. We had beat Gustavus in the NCAA tournament for 400, and 2 days later they shut everything down, and that was the end of that season, which was really tough with 8 seniors and moving on to the NCAA tournament. That was one of the toughest things ever. But yeah, just longevity, and I've just been lucky enough to have a lot of good players here, and a great tradition of winning, and so it's been super fun. It definitely doesn't feel like 25 years.
What has it been like getting to take your teams to the Frozen Four?
We haven't been there for a few years now, but it's there was one time when we did 3 in a row, and I think one was to Middlebury, Vermont, and 2 to Plattsburgh, New York, and really nothing better, really, for the girls, and it's an experience of a lifetime. The players who are now alumni who come back, and we always talk about those trips and how fun they were, and and we had a couple of third place finishes, 2 or 3, and we made it to the national championship once against Plattsburgh back when they were almost unbeatable, and were national runner up once, and so we find ourselves right here today, knowing that if we win tomorrow against Gustavus, we would have a very good chance of hosting the Frozen Four, which would be an experience of a lifetime for my players to be able to do that and sleep in your own bed.
Of course, what would that feel like to get to maybe host the Frozen Four?
Yeah, I mean, it's really the ultimate. It's just, I mean, we haven't done it yet, and I don't talk about it a lot with my players because, even though we're 28-0 right now, every day I tell the players, what's our record? And they all say 0-0. And I say, how many games do we have left? And they all say 1. So we're just going one game at a time. But it's just one of those things as a coach. If you get that opportunity, not only to be at a Frozen Four, but to host one, it'd be pretty awesome to host it because we have just unbelievable facilities here. We have great facilities, great staff. So it would be fun for our crew and the people who run our Falcon Center and Hunt Arena and the college and everything to showcase what we have here. So it'd be a big honor.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you built for the women's ice hockey program?
Pardon me?
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the women's ice hockey program?
Yeah, the culture is, the first thing is when we get a recruit to commit to come here, the first thing we start to talk about is have no expectations. You just come here, you work hard, you have fun. Be a good teammate, be a good line mate, be coachable, and then we start there, but it's all about coming here, and we have it written right in the locker room. I tell the kids, read it every day, but it's all about buy-in and know your role, understand your role, appreciate everything you have. Don't take things for granted. You need to have respect for everything. You need to respect your opponent, the refs, your coaches, your facility, and everything. And that's really our culture. We win a lot here, but we really never talk about winning. We're not outcome based. We're all about, our goals are about being ready to come to practice every day, be the best you can be, and represent yourself and your team and your college. And but we're a lunch bucket team, and we take a lot of pride in that too.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
In our conference, we have UW Superior, UW Eau Claire, UW Stevens Point, and then Northland College. And then the NCHA has teams in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan, and we don't really play them, but we play Adrian, who's traditionally a top 5 team in the country. And then we play the MIAC schools over in Minnesota, a lot in the Twin Cities, because here in River Falls, we're only 20 minutes from St. Paul. So we get over and play some non-conference games too against some of those teams as well.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Stephen Point comes to your home rink?
Well, we have a great atmosphere here. Like I said, we have a great rink and great facility, but like some of those games, we'll average 300-400 people for a game, but like we just got done playing UW Eau Claire for the O'Brien Cup, which is the WIAC championship game, and we had about 1,100 people in our rink. So those games traditionally are really fun. It's packed, high energy, a lot of students. And then now tomorrow we'll have Gustavus here at home, and I believe we can seat 1,400 in our rink, and that game will probably sell out. So great atmosphere, a lot of female college hockey players or other sports really never get to experience anything like that with 1,200-1,400 people in a rink and playing in the national tournament or for a conference championship. So it's pretty awesome.
What is that atmosphere like going on the road to colleges like Adrian College and playing there?
Adrian, we haven't been there for a few years now. We go there next year. That's about a 12-hour bus ride, so we get to know each other pretty well. Adrian's a fun place to play. Again, they always have a lot of energy and a lot of fans, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that trip next year. And then the year after, every 3 years we go to either Middlebury or Plattsburgh and go out and play in the Cardinal Panther Classic over Thanksgiving. We go out and play out east, and last year we went out and beat defending national champion Middlebury and Plattsburgh both. I believe they were ranked 1 and 2 in the country, and we won that tournament, which was we were the first team ever besides Middlebury or Plattsburgh to win that tournament, and definitely the first team, obviously, ever from the West to win it. So going on the road and getting those opportunities are really fun.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate women's ice hockey?
Well, it's different for every school, but for us, we start identifying kids when they're in 10th grade. We're probably the earliest Division III team. I don't know how they do it out east, but in the West here, we really kind of wrap things up around Christmas, New Year's time with our recruits in their junior year. So like we're done recruiting for next year. And then the following year, those kids who are juniors, we only have one spot left. So we wrap things up pretty early, as where most, I think, D3 programs, are bringing in kids their senior year. We don't do that here. We're very specific about who we bring in, and we make a commitment to those kids, and they make a commitment to us. But yeah, it's usually done by Christmas their junior year.
As a head coach, what do you look at in those prospective student athletes when out on the road recruiting?
Well, first and foremost, they have to be good students, or they're not going to be able to play college hockey. And then we look for kids that work hard. You got to, when we talk to their coaches, we talk to a lot of people, make sure they're great kids. Number one, you got to have good student athletes and good kids, but we kind of bring in lunch bucket kids, and there isn't really one type of certain kid we bring in. We like to have different types of players. So, but basically they have to love the game. They have to work hard. They have to be a great kid, or they probably won't be on our list.
As a head coach, what's it like seeing those freshmen put on that red Wisconsin Falls jersey for the first time?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. It's really awesome for my assistant coach, Jim Walsh, who does 95% of the recruiting. He's a fantastic recruiter and works so hard. And so, he's talking to a kid that, right when they're done with their sophomore year, and we don't get them here for 2 years later, 2.5 years later sometimes. Those kids wait a long time to get here. So when they finally put on the UWRF jersey and go out on the ice, it's pretty awesome for their families, but yeah, it's an accomplishment, and we don't take it lightly. It's awesome.
What is it like getting to see those seniors put on that jersey for the last time representing the school?
Well, It's always tough. You never know when your last game is unless you're playing a national championship, and we've only done that once. But looking at my seniors this year, we've had some great senior classes where we would graduate two or three all Americans, and you're always thinking, oh man, what are you going to do next year? But this year, I mean, I have my senior class is the best senior class I've ever had. I have six seniors, and I think back watching them put on their jersey as freshmen, one of them 5 years ago. It's pretty amazing. It's just I have six great kids, and I hope they don't put on their jersey for the last time until next at three more games from now, because then I know we're playing for a national championship, and those girls deserve it. Six of the best kids I've ever coached.
What is it like as a head coach getting to see those first career high moments, like first assist and first goals?
Yep, the first are always great. Anytime a kid's a freshman and scores their first goal, just like probably any program, we get the puck and we keep it for them and get a picture of them, and in the locker room with their puck, and that's always a big deal. And anytime we have accomplishments like Maddie McCollins this year, I don't know how many pucks I've given that kid because she's broken almost every record there is, or Callie Hoff a couple of years ago, and Maddie McCollins this year. Last year she broke the single season scoring record, so she gets that puck, and then she broke her own record this year, and she's the leading scorer in the country. So she's got a lot of pucks. But I remember her first goal as well, and so yeah, we've had a lot of kids have gotten a lot of pucks and different accolades. It's always great.
What is it like getting to see them score their first goals versus seeing them score their last goals and the last assists?
Yeah, I can still remember a lot of times, girls scoring their first goal. And, I remember Carly Walkerstorfer and Danny Sibley. This is almost 10 years ago, probably now, scored their first goals on the same game. And that's always really fun. And, and then somebody like Danny Sibley goes on and scores, almost 200 points here and was the Laura Hurd National Player of the Year. But yeah, I can still remember her first goal, and those are all good memories, and those kids have those memories for the rest of their lives. Pretty neat.
What are some of your future plans with the women's ice hockey program for UWRF?
I no future plans. Just keep plugging away, doing what we're doing here. We just you want to have a positive experience for as many kids as possible, and I'm not going to switch things up. We get a lot of parents of our recruits now that I'm getting a little long in the tooth here. Been here a long time, but we get a lot of parents, asking how long are you and Jim and Amanda and Jeremy going to be around? Me and my assistant coaches, because we've been here a while, and they want to know we're going to be here for at least 4 more years when their kids commit here. And I have no intentions of shutting her down here anytime soon. I always say as long as we're having fun and we're still winning, and might as well just keep going. So no plans to do anything different in the near future.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college women's ice hockey?
Biggest thing, like I said before, is we just tell them don't have expectations. Just come in, work your butt off, be a good teammate. But if you're going to make the jump from high school to college, one of the bigger things is you need to get bigger, faster, and stronger. They need to get in the weight room. It's a whole different ball game when they get here, and so a lot of girls really have to put in the time to get to do that.
What advice would you give those college women's ice hockey players looking to play on the next level of professional ice hockey?
At the Division III level, now with the PWHL, the Division III kids probably aren't going to go on. You're going to go on with life. You're going to move on like the rest of us. And when your hockey career is done, you're going to get a job and you're going to move on and have a family and do, real life is going to hit you in the face pretty fast. So, we're not really ever talking about the next level, even though I've had some kids who have gone on and done a few things. But now that those opportunities are really more for the elite Division I players, the Olympians. So it's just enjoy your time here and appreciate what you have, and don't take it for granted, because it comes to an end for all of us.
What advice would you give those players looking to get into coaching after their playing career?
If you're going to get into coaching, I think the biggest thing, like for me, I've coached mites, squirts, peewees, bantams, high school. I think the biggest thing is you see a lot of people, a lot of girls especially, who will go right from college playing to coaching. And I think as an assistant coach, yeah, you can do that, learn some stuff, but some of them get thrown right in there as a head coach, and that's really difficult without coming through the trenches. So you hate to see somebody jump in, head first, and then be in over their head, and then not succeed. But get as much experience as you possibly can before coaching at an upper level.
What advice would you give those college coaches out there looking to become head coaches one day?
Yeah, if you're an assistant coach, and you just have to learn. Every day you got to learn. Like, you show me a coach that's not learning, and I'll probably show you a coach that isn't very good. I've been coaching for 41 years, and I've never thought I know it all. I have a lot to learn still. I'm constantly trying to learn stuff from steal stuff from other coaches, I should say. But, you're always looking. You have to grow as a coach, as an assistant or head coach. Biggest thing is just learn, and take it in, and never think you have all the answers, because if you think that, you don't.
What advice would you give those coaches out there looking to build their own program and build their own legacy from the ground up?
Yeah, if you're going to build your program, the biggest thing is, people ask me all the time, what do you credit your program's success with? And, I will credit Jim Walsh, my assistant coach. He's a phenomenal recruiter. And, like when I was out looking, and he kind of came to me, but our paths had crossed a long time ago when we were younger. But, Jim he worked for State Farm for 30 years, so he knows how to sell. And you got to have yourself a good recruiter, because you need good student athletes. But you also need to be able to coach them, and you got to have a good culture and all those things, and the desire and the work ethic and all that. But for me, when I hired Jim Walsh 19 years ago, our program went from a 8 or 9, 10 team in the country to a top 5 consistently every year. So get a good recruiter, get a good goalie coach. As my dad says, a good goalie gives the illusion of a good coach. So you need to have a good goalie coach. That I've had for all 25 years.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program app?
We're at uwrfsports.edu. Social media, I don't know. People are always talking about social media, and I just go, Facebook, what's that? I'm not a social media guy. But if you just go to UWRF Sports, all of our sports are there: women's hockey, men's hockey, all our other sports. But that's where you go to see us.
Thank you again for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the UWRF's women's ice hockey program.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on the Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.